You need to get one of those Chaotica eyeballs. Do you know about those things?
I've seen those.
You know what you can make your own. You buy like a dodgeball, like a foam dodgeball, and you just like and like pour it out, and then you stick it on top. It's like looks like Barney's nuts. It's like big, and you get like a big purple one. Yeah, but they're $200 if you buy one.
Yeah, but I got like this going on. You can't really.
I mean, it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah, so I mean,
I don't have one of those. I'm a neophyte. I just have a fucking
but
filter.
the acoustics in your room are fantastic.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm worried about moving to one of these houses with like fucking tall ceilings, and then it's just like bing bong bouncing off of every wall.
Yeah, that's where I am right now. So that's hence this encasement.
Yeah, almost cathedral like a cathedral in Britain. Where Malcolm McDowell's hanging out with very little clothing on, I might add.
Sometimes not at all.
Sometimes not at all. Man, Malcolm McDowell's sure known for just nudity early in his career, man.
Dropping trow.
Yeah, hanging brain.
Right out the gate.
Yeah. So on this episode of the Culture Cast, I am still Christashu, and I am joined by my good friend. He is the host of Dark Destinations and other podcasts that you can find over at fathermalone.com. Your friend and mine, Father Malone.
Hey, here we are.
And you programmed this month, man.
This is my month, baby. The most navel-gazing month of all. Father Malone's miserable choices.
Any month of the year.
No matter the season, I've got some horribly depressing films for you.
Or Petey Wheatstraw. Take your pick.
Or Petey Wheatstraw. And sometimes Petey Wheatstraw is horribly depressing. But.
Yeah. But this month you programmed the entire month, and we're going to be talking about films that are...
in prep school, set in prep schools. I spent a good deal of my youth in such an institution and became kind of a connoisseur of these type of flicks. When most people think prep school movies, in fact, anytime anyone has said like, "Oh, you programmed the month, what is it?" and I've said prep school, they've said, "Oh, so Dead Poets Society and School Times," and I'm like, "No, these are good movies set in prep schools, more accurate maybe than the Hollywoodized versions. Certainly in this case, although this is more of a fantasy than anything, this one. And this movie, by the way, represents the only one I had not seen previous.
So this is a new one for you as well.
It absolutely is. And this is the one that I kept hearing about and somehow never ran into the movie. But people in the know would say, like, if you want a good prep school movie, check this out. It's this, sort of phantasmic-y kind of a version of like a rebellion in a prep school. And I was like, yeah, well, that sounds good. But I just never found it. So this is a first time for me as well.
Yeah. So on this first episode, we're going to be talking about Lindsay Anderson's.
This is an English public school. This is where Britain raised its empire builders of yesterday and still trains its leaders of tomorrow. This is the unchanging English public school. This is where you still learn to play the game.
The angles of the one equal the angles of the other. Understand, Bruni? Yes, sir. Good.
Far from home, far from your family, you learn what to expect from life.
Just remember that life here is a matter of give and take. We are your new family, and you must expect the rough and tumble that goes with any family life.
In this world, you have to watch out for yourself and obey the rules, as in the world outside. But some people are born to break the rules.
You three have become a danger to the morale of the whole house, and we've decided to beat you for it.
I serve the nation. You haven't the slightest idea what it means, have you?
You mean that bit of wool on your tit?
With its freedom and excitement, its visions and its dreams, this is the world of youth, a world of fantasy that sometimes turns to strange violence.
Look at me. I'll kill you.
You won't forget them. Christine Noonan as the girl, Malcolm McDowell as Mick the rebel, Richard Warwick, and David Wood as his friends who share a secret loyalty. 3 young people who reject a world that the old have made and decide to take things into their own hands. If may shock you, it will surely surprise you. It's a film that will make you take sides. Which side will you be on?
If. So the film is directed by Lindsay Anderson, based on a story by David Sherwin and John Howlett. David Sherwin wrote the script. And yes, it stars Malcolm McDowell as Michael Arnold Mick Travis, a rebellious child, teenager. I guess he's supposed to be like 16, 17.
Like 16 or 17.
Yeah, a rebellious teen at a British preparatory school who figures out a way to strike back at some real piece of shit older kids.
And faculty. And everyone.
And faculty. The kids are pretty bad because they're like sexually abusing them, but
they're abusing them in every possible manner. It's really horrific.
Yep. Especially for such a fantastical film in a lot of ways. Like it gets pretty dark.
The darkness, I think, justifies the sort of flights of fancy that populate the film. But there's no getting around. Look, I didn't have the best time going to a prep school, but it's so far removed from this experience, which I from what I understand, is actually pretty common, or was pretty common in Great Britain up until this point in the 70s, and definitely long before it. I remember seeing a documentary once about Monty Python, but it was about their lives before Python. And I know for sure, I believe Michael Palin was part of this system and had not a great time, but Eric Idle fucking despised the system. Like it is nothing but blood sport. When you're left to your own devices, like these kids are really. I mean,
right, yeah.
It's kind of like a Lord of the Flies in a way. Like, you're being policed in a really corporal manner. Like they're beating other children, and the ones doing it, the ones in charge, are just the kid who's a year older than you. And he's in charge, and the faculty are totally cool with it.
They're even enabling it in a lot of ways, and they're up to their own kind of weird.
Boy, everyone has a weird fetish or fixation. Like they're sparing no one in this movie.
No, I don't know how to feel about the movie. Really, it's interesting because where it ends up going is so out there. Like it really swings for the fences, and I'm not sure it makes it all the way over. I think it kind of comes up a little short because I think the way the film's climax plays out it forces the film to be fantastical.
Yeah, there's no way you can do that ending unless it's part of these flights of fancy we've seen before.
Right.
Because the ending is problematic. It's problematic in 2022. It probably was problematic then as well. People, don't want to see what the end of this movie brings.
Which is a school shooting.
Yeah, it's a massacre is what it is.
Right.
But this is the whole movie is a satire of this system and the how crushing it all is and how it's breeding this kind of revolution. Like, how could you not expect this to happen? Like when you're beating people and humiliating them and praising the worst of them and so I mean, look, murder's not a justified thing, but the problem for me with the movie is I think it's just sort of a wanton massacre at the end, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying they needed to go specifically kill the characters who have been tormenting our leads for the entire movie, but that would have been a satisfying conclusion of the movie. And it also could have been a fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
It's just the opening up on everybody from a rooftop with a machine gun doesn't endear those characters to me. It doesn't feel like, we're breaking away from the old system. It feels like people shooting each other.
Yeah, it's weird. Like yourself, I had never seen this movie, and I haven't seen a lot of stuff with Malcolm McDowell in it. I mean, I've seen Clockwork Orange, but I haven't seen a lot of things, post starting a podcast with Malcolm McDowell in them. So I don't have a very well-formed opinion of him. You remember that terrible episode of Tales from the Crypt he was in?
Oh my God, no.
Where he played the reluctant vampire, I believe may have been the name.
Oh my, that was the name. Yes, it was terrible.
God, what a nightmare,
so
right?
Yeah.
But then you get stuff like, he's actually one of the better parts of those Rob Zombie Halloween remakes. He's actually pretty good.
Malcolm McDowell's a spectacular actor. He's he you know what he's good in? Tank Girl. That's saying something.
Yeah, boy, isn't it? Yeah.
And we're
he's
getting
good in Star Trek Generations, and that movie is dog shit.
Yes. I have a Malcolm McDowell story. I was once at a screening in Los Angeles. I was at the Writers Guild Theater, and the screening I attended was letting out, and there was a little group of people waiting to go in for the next one. And standing off to the side of that group was Malcolm McDowell, who was smoking a cigarette, and I was a smoker at the time. So I beelined over to have a cigarette with him. And he was finishing, so he was about to go in, and I said, "Hey, I just want to say one thing to you. Thank you for killing Captain Kirk." And he went, "Oh, I love doing it." And then he went into the theater. And so that's my mouth.
That's amazing.
So yes, yeah. Like he is good in Generation. He's actually really good in Generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's the main villain in that movie.
Yeah, and he'll always be Reggie Wanker to me from Alan Arkush's Get Crazy, the sort of unhinged Mick Jagger clone that he plays in that movie. But this is all well before that, ain't it? This is his first role.
This is before Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, in fact, this movie evidently leads to the role in Clockwork Orange. Like Kubrick sees this and sees him and says, yeah, that's our guy.
What a shocker.
Yeah, I know.
What a shocker. I mean, look, the reason that Malcolm McDowell is as good as he is because he knows how to control his face so well, because he can be equal parts menacing and equal parts just like charismatic and charming. Yeah. But he knows how to switch it on and off really deftly.
And just through his smile, the subtlest change of his smile goes from either like smarmy to genuinely enjoyment. And he's got a great face for it. You can read everything in it while knowing nothing about what he's thinking. That's right. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Well, and that is the other thing about this movie is it kind of goes all over the place, and in it going all over the place, it does kind of take you on the ride with the characters, and you don't know where it's going, and it is satire. So again, I don't even know how to interpret the ending of this movie, really. Yeah. I had a hard time with this movie, really, because it's kind of, the characters are not likable. None of them are.
I actually appreciated that about. I like that.
I know, but there needs to be one. Like, it's hard when there's none. You know what I mean? No, it is hard.
There's not none. The character Wally, his charge, that the younger angelic boy who's clearly in love with him, who's watching him on the balance beam.
Yeah.
That kid is pure. There's nothing wrong with that kid. There's another child. The sort of the audience's through or intro into the world is this tiny child. Like Malcolm McDowell doesn't show up to like 10, 15 minutes into this.
Yeah, movie. It's true.
So we're dealing with and learning the rules of the school through this young child. Like, I don't recall him ever going bad. Like, as this year progresses, that kid. So I know,
but he's not much of a character, though.
No, he's not. But at least he's a character essentially in that first scene and almost nowhere else. Right. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because, like, again, most of the story is about the teenage boys, less the younger ones.
Right. And I think the filmmakers here were definitely interested in breaking like formula. Like, these are. The movie's separated into chapters, like 8 or 10 chapters. And basically it's different periods of the school year. We're getting, we start when they arrive in the winter thing and it ends in spring. I think the filmmakers were more interested in doing like breaking the timeline and having these like blackout sketches is what we get. There's no real narrative going on here other than the continued depredations and degradations of these three characters, these three sort of rebellious characters within this world that is trying to crush them at every turn.
Well, and that is kind of, I think, my big issue with this movie. And it's unfortunate that we watched this movie and another movie, Human Highway, essentially in close proximity to one another.
Yeah.
Because they both are saddled with the same problem, which is it's, just some dudes walking around. Like,
I like a narrative.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of story.
I mean, again, there can be a story, and quality gained from just, a man walking around,
Yeah.
But
I don't know what the story is here other than you push me hard enough and I'm going to break.
Right. Which is like, duh.
Right. I mean, look, obviously, this movie was a big success, I believe, and obviously needed to happen in Britain where people needed to look at this, as a cultural problem.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know. I really was enjoying the movie in places, and then some of the corporal punishment stuff kind of turned my stomach a bit. And then during the first flight of fancy, I see this more than the ending of the movie. The first dream sequence, as it were, is Malcolm McDowell and Johnny. So Mick and Johnny,
right?
They steal a motorcycle, which is a great scene. Talk about Malcolm McDowell, just like getting on the bike. He's locked eyes with the proprietor of this motorcycle store, and he's gonna steal it, but that scene is marvelous. So then they like zoom off, and it's the first time we've gotten away from the school. So it's this sort of poetry kind of moment in this movie, where they're like racing along and it's green hills and trees and stuff. And then they stop at a cafe where it gets real rapey all of a sudden, and then turns again and basically the movie becomes like a Jules and Jim. It becomes like a French New Wave movie where now it's about this menage a trois between these three characters, or maybe not. They're frolicking. They're in love. I don't know. But all of that's fine. And I was down for it, except for Mick being such a rapey dickhead.
And that's what I meant when I said, like, I can't get behind a lot of these characters, because like there's the ones that we're following throughout are awful.
Yeah.
Like Malcolm McDowell plays a scumbag really well.
Too well.
Right. I mean, Alex DeLarge.
Right.
Like, and this is proto Alex DeLarge.
Would you say that up until this moment where the scene we're describing, if you haven't seen the movie, and you probably haven't, is they stop into the cafe and they're both sort of ogling the girl there's a girl who, by the way, everyone gets a fucking character name in this movie except her. It's the gal. I mean, anyway.
The gal.
The gal. Okay. So anyway, so they're ogling the gal, and then she seems to be interested in Malcolm McDowell. Like they establish that, but then he just grabs her and kisses her, and she slaps him, and then he goes off dejectedly to the jukebox. She rejoins him at the jukebox because she was interested, but not in that way. So is the scene challenging? Is it being realistic? Should I give it some leeway? Or is it like that sort of behavior has pulled me out of the movie and I can't continue with you, sir? But before that scene, I guess my question is, were you with him?
Yeah, because the amount of torment that he was catching from those other characters, I mean, that's a level of torment that would push you. So it makes sense. But yeah, when it starts being like him inflicting that on other characters, it's like, I'm kind of not interested in this.
Yeah. I mean, dramatically speaking, it's effective because, that's he's absorbing it, and it's got to go somewhere. But
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I like get that part of it, and I not that I can forgive it necessarily, but like I paper over it lightly because that doesn't make sense if you factor in the ending of the movie, which is a wanton destruction. Like, that's the culmination of all of the abuse. Like, but I don't know. It's a good movie, I guess. I don't know.
That's what I can't figure out. Is it a good movie?
I guess the fact that we're wondering is a win, right? Like,
that's
even if it ultimately turns out that we've soured on it, at least it got us thinking, which I think is the intention of these filming.
That's fair, and that is kind of like my earlier takeaway with this movie, kind of early on when the movie is, kind of setting up all these characters. I was like, man, this is interesting. I'm kind of excited to see where some of these characters go. It's very obvious that there's like some really problematic things going on at this school. And then it never does anything with it. It's just like stock and trade, like boilerplate stuff that you could see in anything. Like, yeah, they push it sexually a little bit more than maybe other movies would, but like, it's still, you could see this in a lot of other similar genre films.
Yeah. And where they're trying to make I don't know. I don't want to undercut
trying to make it something more than it is. And it's like I can't understand if you're trying to do that, this is not the best foot to put forward.
Not the let's murder everyone. Like that's our only response. I mean, maybe they felt that way. Maybe
so is that what's going on in the ending? Because like they were shooting blanks clearly at some point.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people lying dead.
Or are they just lying down? Like what I couldn't figure out. Okay.
Right. Are they playing along?
Right. Like here's my interpretation of the ending. They light the fire. They come out. Malcolm McDowell and the girl are on the roof and they're shooting at everybody. But he's just shooting blanks at them to scare the shit out of them, to antagonize them the way he's been antagonized. And then the guy tells them to stop. The girl kills him. And then they open fire on him with real guns.
Maybe.
It's very Bless the Beast and Children.
Yes, it is, and it would make
that's
more
what this
sense.
Reminded me of.
Yeah, if it had been blanks the whole time. Look, they're setting off bombs and shit. Like people are getting injured. There's no question about it, right? Like that they have grenades and stuff that are exploding. Like I don't know.
But there is a point where they're talking about putting real bullets in guns and not real bullets.
Right, but that's earlier when they're like out there doing their ROTC bullshit war games, right?
But again, like it in the scene at the end, it seems like that some of those people aren't getting shot.
Yeah, or maybe they're just terrible marksmen.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't figure out, because again, like this movie is satire. So is it?
Yeah,
it's obviously intentional, but like, what is the intent?
Right. I mean, I think it's just as simple as like everything's going to boil over, you know?
Right.
And that's a fact. But like, I don't know. It's hard to watch in 2022.
Yeah.
There's no getting around murdering other students at this point. And these are
and their
these
parents
are high school
too.
Kids and their parents and all the, like, as bad as all of them are, like, look, I don't need to see a rah-rah Dead Poets Society kind of thing, like, where we rally around something, or like, I don't need a solution necessarily, but I don't need this. Like,
right. This is a bit drastic even for this.
At the end of Rock and Roll High School, they blow that fucking school up, and I'll still cheer to this day.
Right. But they're not murdering everybody inside.
Right. This is a little more pointed and personal. And yet at the same time, it's completely impersonal because they're not attacking anyone who has done anything to them during the entire thing. Like, they're dealing with a couple of administrators and then some police and stuff. Like, there's no interaction between the villains and the heroes at the end of this movie. There doesn't necessarily need to be, but like, what is this?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. It was so strange because when you get to the end of the movie, you have Malcolm McDowell on that rooftop with the girl character shooting at everybody. And then everybody who comes back with guns are the people that have been tormenting him the entire movie. And they kill him.
And they kill him. I mean, maybe that's the message. No matter what you do, we're going to crush you. We've been seeing a lot of depressing stuff lately.
Is that what it is? Because like, I can't tell. Is it?
It may be. I mean, they're going to die up there, right?
Well, that's what I can't figure out. Like, the guns that they're handed from the people who go and get them have real bullets in them, yes?
Yeah, and the police are there. Like, they're going to be shot and killed.
Then there's no way they survive that.
No.
They like slide off the rooftop riddled with bullets.
Yeah, and yet this is the first in a trilogy of film.
Right. Which when I
Does
read
he kill
that
everyone in every one of them? Just like, if this was a serial killer thing, it'd be so good, but I doubt it is, because it's like Oh Lucky Man, I think, is one of them, right?
Yeah, I think in this it says that it's the same character.
Right, but Malcolm McDowell like snorts at that, says like, it's not a trilogy. Like, they're just random stories, kind of. He's just an everyman character that they've stuck in. He could have been called anything in each of them, was his attitude. But maybe the filmmaker like, this is definitely the guy, and this is his life story.
Well, and the third one, it has Malcolm McDowell's character getting his head cut off and then put on a Frankenstein body. So,
are you serious?
Oh yeah, I'm serious. Yes.
Oh, I gotta watch that.
Look up Britannia Hospital. I was reading the synopsis earlier and I was like, what? This is not real. Nope, very real.
Definitely gonna watch that.
Yeah.
Britannia Hospital, was that the inspiration for Stephen King's Kingdom Hospital?
No idea. Good old Mr. King.
Anyway,
he loves writing stories, coming of age stories, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
He didn't write this, but I think
he would have.
Yeah.
If you left him alone with a typewriter for more than 10 minutes.
Right. Right about preparatory school kids.
You do it. Let me see. Sorry. Oh, there were a couple of clever things I thought in this. When there's that Okay. I mentioned earlier there's the Wally character, and there's a younger character, like a younger student who's like looks up to him and is clearly in love with him. There's a right. So there's a scene of those two together in the armory. Why is there an armory? Anyway,
that's why I'm saying, man. Like,
going on in England.
They had a armory. Well, they had enough guns to start a small war.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, it's all blanks, but come on. Anyway, so the scene between these two characters is very, very sweet and very romantic. And then it immediately cuts to Malcolm McDowell, who's basically autoerotic, asphyxiating himself. He's just got a bag on himself over his head to like see how long he can hold his breath or something. But it's such a weird, like, there's lots of weird fetishy stuff going on in this. Like even like the nun who's ladling out food to them, she's taking like extra joy in ladling the food out. It's like everyone has a weird kink or quirk and stuff. I don't know.
Also, the woman who's walking around the dorm room naked,
like, you know, like, yeah, amongst the boys' stuff while they're out on, you know, out doing military things.
Yeah, that war games.
Yeah. I guess nobody escapes in this movie. Like everyone is horrible and everyone's doing horrible things to horrible, you know, and then the good people die. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's pretty, again, like if you interpret it the way kind of we're interpreting it, which is, you know, they die at the end and they're gunned down by all the people at the school. Like it's a pretty unless they imagined all of that. Maybe they that's the thing. Like that's what I don't.
Did they really make a human pyramid and drive on a motorcycle together? Probably not.
Right. Like that's what I don't know about this movie is like how much of it is being presented as factual and how much of it is like, you know, fantastic.
Well, it's fancy. Yeah. And like, and there's this other weird quirk in the movie where the film stocks change from color to black and white. So I read up on it because I was curious, and evidently the scenes in the chapel, they call it a chapel. I like you call it a cathedral, like the chapel at the school. It's a huge hall.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's completely lined with stained glass, and they wanted to catch the light. And I guess they realized that the only way they could make it happen is to shoot it in monochrome, like with the amount of time they had, because obviously it's a tight budgeted movie. So they chose to shoot it in black and white rather than not shoot it at all. And then he made the decision, well, I'll just start shooting random things in black and white and putting them in. And that'll be part of this blackout, no real structure to it. It's all part and parcel. But it's really distracting because it does seem to happen at the weirdest times. Like there's like a woman showing a professor like where to put his stuff or something like that. It's like walking him down a hall. And that scene's in black and white and then cut back to the kids in color. Like there really isn't any rhyme or reason to it. And that was frustrating to me.
No, I'm with you. It felt like if they had done more with it in a more interesting way, it would have worked. But I think ultimately it just serves as kind of like weird missed opportunity of their own creation.
Yeah.
Right? Like nobody asked you to shoot it in black and white. Like nobody asked you to go and try to get this cathedral's light perfectly. Like that's a thing, man.
That's a super weird thing. But you know what? This is like 1969 in England, like London, you know, like everyone's freewheeling and experimenting. And, you know, they wanted to shake things up with the movie, and then they went too far. Sure. But, you know, not for lack of trying.
No, they did go too far. But again, like it's they went too far. But at the same time, like it serves the narrative so well in a lot of ways. Like,
well, the story that they're trying to tell, which is chaotic at best, and then, you know, punishing at worst.
Right, exactly. I don't understand really what happens at the end of this movie. At least not like clearly.
Yeah, but we are lovingly treated to you know, these boys being, you know, abused and you know, humiliated over and over again. The scene. Here's something I read that I really enjoy, which is Malcolm McDowell got the role of Alex DeLarge off of this movie and then was petrified that he didn't know how to get into that character, and called Michael Anderson and said, what do you think? And he said, you know, the scene where you walk into the gymnasium and they're going to beat you? He says, when you close the door, you smile for a second. Do you remember doing that? And he was like, yeah. Like give me your worst, fuckers. He's like, that should be your entire performance in Alex DeLarge. And he's like, and that's how I played that entire. It's the best piece of direction I've ever received, he said.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if anything, if ... there were 4 dots. Apparently, it was really important to Michael Anderson. If anything, this movie gave us one of the greatest movies of all time,
and a movie I haven't seen nearly enough.
Clockwork Orange.
I think I've seen it once.
Oh my! I watched that way too much in my youth. I can recite that movie.
I was thinking, like, it could serve as a counterpoint to this movie.
Certainly, yeah. It's kind of crazily about the same thing. So
yeah, again, but the characters are similar.
I think Clockwork Orange reaches depths that this movie doesn't understand and
doesn't even attempt to plumb.
Right. But at the same time is way more hopeful than this movie. Like I don't know. I see Clockwork Orange ultimately being a hopeful tale. Maybe that's my bag, but like it's certainly less bleak than this ending. Unless this ending is just a fucking fantasy.
Well, what is your interpretation of the ending?
It's a total fantasy.
Really?
Yeah.
So how does that work then?
I don't know, because there are other characters involved. It's like it doesn't really hold up. Like I'm just hoping that's the end because. Look, I mean, we've said it's a satire, so it probably is the ending. They got up there and they started shooting people, and those people are dead, and then they were dead too. And that's the best you can hope for. It's it's a Dr. Strangelove ending, like weehaw, we'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when.
Giddy up and ride into the sunset, baby.
Yeah, like this. There's no hope for anybody in the world of if.
And that's the problem I think with this movie for me overall is like I can't watch a movie like this.
You know what? You're going to get a whole lot of them because
I know,
programmed a bunch of prep schools, and the prep schools.
It's so nihilistic, though. This movie in particular is like I don't know. I'm sure the other movies aren't nihilistic, but just this is that British level of nihilism that's really hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is somehow funnier over there.
Right. Well, the cultural kind of waypoints make more sense.
Mm-hmm. Like there must be levels of humor I'm not privy to, and I recognize that, but it doesn't in any way change my opinion of the movie.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. It's like we may not be the intended audience, but we could still watch it. So
yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I didn't go to prep school. You did, but even you didn't have this experience. So. Thank God.
It was corporal punishment was pretty much done away with by that's absolutely not true. I mentioned to you that I caught the tail end of corporal punishment, but that was in grade school and those were nuns and they could be vicious. I mean, I did get my head banged against the blackboard. I had a nun full slap me across the face. Giant like yardstick rulers were a terrifying totem.
My mom went to Catholic school. I mean,
so she knows it's brutal sometimes.
Yeah,
but at no point did I ever experience other than like being made fun of, like we all were. Like if anyone had attempted to cane me in such a vigorous manner, like. The fact that Malcolm McDowell didn't fucking kill them all in that scene.
Right.
Like, I was kind of hoping he was going to go get that sword, that sort of buoyant sequence of them, like, fencing together, the three of them, the three rebels here. Like, why didn't they go stab all these guys? That would have been a great ending. I would have been roused.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, the way the movie is described, it's like Malcolm McDowell leads a savage insurrection at a boys' prep school. It's like, what? He doesn't, though. It's in the last 2 minutes of the movie.
And it's not an insurrection. It's a massacre. It isn't like that, like a group of students against a group of students or a group of students against the faculty or anything. It's just like, I keep saying wanton destruction. That's what it is. It's just random murder.
Right. Yeah. Well, and for me, it's like, what? Why? Like,
Travis Bickle was always going to murder somebody. The fact that he murders a pimp and, gets a girl off the street is like all happenstance.
Right.
So, but I still love him because he does do the right thing. This kind of shit, like if Travis Bickle had killed the senator, I don't know that I would have loved that movie.
Well, but that's my question with this movie is like, what is the point of him killing anybody but the people that were tormenting him? Because then it's not satire.
Yeah. Now it's just
better
than them.
Dark and upsetting. Like.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't work then. Like, I don't think this works in 1968 and it really doesn't work now.
I think it works probably less now. I bet
it works way less now.
I bet at the time, the thought that anyone would actually do this at the end of the movie was such a fucking ridiculous concept.
That's fair. That's very fair. No, that's 100% fair.
So, I mean, they didn't like it because they didn't like the images that they were given, but it wasn't because this might incite something or we've been fucking wearying under this for decades, you know?
Right. That's a uniquely American thing.
Certainly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It hits a little close to home in a lot of ways, like with some stuff that's not, I don't know, that's not satirical. Anyway, I don't think you can make a satirical Columbine film. Like, I don't think that's a thing.
No. You know what? These characters, had they even hunted these guys down, like there's a lot of safari kind of imagery in this movie.
Yeah.
Like it's Malcolm McDowell is like cutting out pictures of lions and listening to tribal drums and stuff and like wearing teeth. Like I'm waiting for the savagery. And you know, gunning people down is a savage act, no question about it. But like I was waiting for the uprising of this movie, and there wasn't any of that. It was just brutality, couple of moments of sweetness. And then, like, just a, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on it. It's not fun. This movie's not fun.
It's kind of, you know, it's like if Heathers was less self-aware.
Right. Heathers. There's, I mean, same difference, right?
I mean, yeah, you have the reason that Heathers TV show or musical never came out was because of the fucking optics of what that story's about.
Yeah, you know, if the gal at the end of this one had, you know, like stopped them from murdering everyone, would we like this movie? Probably not. No, it's a different.
Well, again, that's what I don't understand. Like,
there's a plot going on.
Was Malcolm McDowell shooting everyone with a gun and with blanks in it, and then she actually shoots the guy, or was Malcolm McDowell just murdering everyone?
I think he was murdering everybody.
That's again.
Look, if they're gonna go this way,
he dies at the end. I know that much.
Yeah.
That's for certain.
I'm going to go all the way with them and say, yes, this is actually happening. Everything they've shown us occurred.
Interesting.
Take that, Michael Anderson. I'm taking you literally, like an American does.
Right. Well, and I think that might be kind of the overarching issue with the movie is taking this kind of shit literally when it's like, I don't know.
Well, you shouldn't at all. I mean, it should be a farce across the board, but some of it is so real and so brutal. Like, you know, this is happening, was happening, continued to happen after this movie came out, you know, so
being given a swirly upside down in a toilet, just general, I don't know.
Oh my
it's
God.
Just like general abuse of children.
They tie that kid's fucking shoelaces like above his head. So he's got to hold on to that toilet.
It's awful. And the people at the school are allowing it to happen, which is why, like, again, like you could almost get away with the ending if it's just the kids and the faculty. Because then maybe it's like, well, maybe
you know, us against them, or you know what? It could have been student against student. Those kids were horrible. The wits.
Well, I thought Malcolm McDowell's character was going to lead the younger kids in some kind of uprising
with a sword, dressed like savages,
right?
You know, like something. Not that. That's what they would do. Don't be them.
Go like camp out on a roof and shoot at people with a light machine gun. Yeah,
man,
like,
that's what the man would do.
Yeah, I feel like their hearts were definitely in the right place.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, it's ultimately problematic.
Right. And there are some quiet scenes. I mean, there's the scene where they're drinking vodka in the room and it's just kind of like a quieter moment, which is nice.
Oh, yeah.
They're few and far between, though.
Right. Because those moments are pretty wonderful. Any of these interaction between these three characters is pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Like real and lived in and lovely, like, you know, genuine affection amongst these guys. And I have genuine affection for them in those scenes, but like what it all hangs on, you're right, just doesn't justify. Yeah. And it's hectically edited. Like it's very confusing.
Yeah. The girl's not the interesting part of the movie.
We've been talking about the ending the whole time because it's, you know, it's really what we walk away with. Like they can't say they didn't build to that ending and want us to just talk about nothing but that. And here we are 50 years later doing it.
Right. And that's the reality of this movie. It's like the ending is all consuming with the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I will say all the performances are great.
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell's introduction is great, kind of showing up with a scarf over his face and he shaves
big mustache.
Yeah, that's fantastic, right?
You know exactly who that guy is as soon as he walks in, amidst all of the drones. You know,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess I should. Look, the movie doesn't work. I'm not going to do any more work for it. Like,
no, it does. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And like the performances are great, but nobody other than Malcolm McDowell is really given anything to do.
Yeah. Well, I think Johnny does a couple of fun things, and I think Wally gets a great scene.
But outside of them, nobody else.
No, because it's about those guys. But
right.
But that's not really true. It's so far ranging. We spend time with the younger students for a little while.
With the faculty, privately.
So there's the problem with the ending. None of these characters come together. I don't need a big fucking song and dance finale where we get to revisit everyone we've seen in the movie, but like it should, if you're going to spend time with them, then it needs to pay off somehow later. Like, why?
Well, the headmaster gets shot in the head. Okay, Get it?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a play.
Terry Thomas, by the way, is the headmaster. Love Terry Thomas. He's in The Abominable Dr. Phibes. He's one of the inspectors. He's so good. He's good here too. He seems so genial and lovely at the beginning, right? But he's just as bad as all of them.
Well, that's the thing. Like, everybody in this movie is like painfully British too, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I really, but that's what makes it work for me. Like, that part, the casting makes at least the setting work for me. Like, it feels like the world feels real. The world feels very lived in, but then like everything else starts happening and I just kind of check out. And I'm like, well, what story are you trying to tell here? None story, zero story, no story at all.
If you go to a school in Britain, they're going to beat you physically, and then they're going to try and crush all your individuality. And if that doesn't work, they'll kill you.
Right. They'll kill you because they forced you to shoot at them because you had no other course of recourse.
Do you want butter on your popcorn while we enjoy this feature?
Yeah, right. Like, holy shit. Can you imagine going to the theaters and watching this movie? Like, good God.
I
mean, Bless the Beast and the Children is no different.
If I was 15 in England and going through this, then I would cheer probably.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, did anything come of this? Because like this was still going on after the movie came out.
Right. But I bet it was less. I bet there was probably some investigation.
I hope so. I fucking hope so.
And everyone is like, it's all based on my experiences. So, and everybody was saying that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like now, but certainly then was no picnic. Back in the golden age, the nostalgia things. Like, let's all go live in a past decade when things were better, and things were never better.
Especially not in the 1960s.
No.
All that toxic masculinity just oozing out of every fucking pore, dude.
Yeah, and that's this movie is just a primer for that, I think. Just to show you how bad by the way, like, because it's England, right? They're the most civilized, aren't they? No, they're actually the most brutal because they're attacking your mind and your body simultaneously.
Yeah. No, it really is a condemnation of toxic masculinity, which I appreciate. Because again, like, I think it's a conversation worth having, especially as, dudes who don't prescribe to that bullshit. So
yeah, who has always felt not alien to like masculinity necessarily, but like alien to what we've always been fed is what masculine is representative of. And like this sort of complete aggression and the belittlement that is a very I went to an all boys school. Guys are the reasoning behind it is the worst ever, basically, that girls are a distraction. But then like this is the better alternative. Like 500 men, like young men trapped in a building together, like they're not going to turn into Lord of the Flies. Of course they are. They are.
I would say it's a recipe for disaster, I feel.
Did you see? I saw somebody posted recently. Somebody asked a question: if all men disappeared on the planet Earth for 24 hours, a question for women, clearly, what would you do? And like the majority of it was, I would go out at night dressed however I wanted.
Right, of course. Horrifying.
I would go to a park,
fucking horrifying,
and walk. Like, it's overwhelming. Why? Because men are the worst. And I think we're getting better, but this is what we're dealing with. This movie, like, I would recommend this movie as a cautionary tale. Like, raise your young male child better than this, please.
Right. Don't make him an incel. I mean, Malcolm McDowell's not an incel, but he's, he's cut from the same cloth of antisocial,
Yeah. But in this case, they're absolutely forcing him in that direction.
Right. Which is the problem. Like, that's That's the issue I have with this movie. It's like he's not really, but he is. Like,
yeah, like the guy at the end of the movie was pushed there. But
Right.
you know, like, is it worth a watch for if you like Malcolm McDowell? Then you owe it to yourself to see the movie because he is charming from the moment the camera like hit him.
I would agree with that 100%. Like, it's a good Malcolm McDowell performance, but I think that might be it.
Yeah, I like some of the other performances I like as well, but like overall, I don't know that I would recommend the movie again.
No,
this will be the last of the movies I programmed this month that I didn't like. I know I like all the other ones.
Well, and again, like I don't dislike this movie. I just don't think that this movie had enough to offer for me to revisit it.
Yeah, I won't be watching.
Right, like I'm not gonna watch it again. Like I got other things. If I want to go watch a Malcolm McDowell movie, I got plenty of other things.
Oh, so man.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll go rewatch Clockwork Orange before I rewatch this.
What you should do is watch Time After Time with him versus David Warner. He's H.G. Wells. David Warner is Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper has stolen H.G. Wells' actual time machine that he built and escaped to the future, which is 1972 San Francisco. And H.G. Wells follows him. It's awesome.
Yeah. And it has David Warner.
Yeah. And directed by Nicholas Myers, Mr. Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, of course. Good. Yeah, it's like it's on a very short list of things I want to make time to watch.
Well, I would recommend that one because you're used to Malcolm McDowell that we saw here. You're used to Clockwork Orange, Malcolm McDowell. You're used to sort of flamboyant and like taking bold chances, Malcolm McDowell.
Right.
Here, that's not the case. He's a real character and a fantastic one at that.
Yeah, it's on. Like I said, it's just I've been meaning to watch it for what feels like forever. So
yeah. Well,
David Warner.
There you go. Can't go wrong with Mr. Warner, particularly as Jack the Ripper, and he's so gentlemanly as Jack the Ripper.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so erudite.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know what to expect with this movie. I'm glad we watched it because
I'm glad we watched it first.
Yeah, get it out of the way. Now that's what it feels like.
Well, I do feel that I was deficient in not having seen it if I, consider myself like someone who likes these movies. So I'm glad I watched it. It was worth a watch, but I cannot tell anyone else to watch it.
Yeah, if you want to watch it, it's on Criterion. I mean, it's easy to track down. So there is that. So
yeah.
I wouldn't rewatch it. I'm not sure, I'm not going to go and watch the sequels. I have no interest. The character of Mick Taylor or Mick Travis is fine. Somewhat interesting character. How does he come back in the other movies?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure that's what Malcolm McDowell is saying. Like, it's not a trilogy.
Dead. Like, he's fucking dead.
That guy died, and then I made another movie, and that character was also called that, and it's him because it's me. But
yeah, and like you can't take that out of me,
right?
So, yeah, I wanted this to be better. I had higher hopes. The synopsis for the movie, I think,
I'm going to check out that
and under-delivered.
You know that you said Britannia Hospital?
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely going to see that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I need to see Oh Lucky Man.
No, I don't think I need to see. I don't think I need to see any more of these movies. I think I've seen the one. I think I've seen the one that clearly mattered.
It's the most lauded one, clearly had influence because it was a big success in England. It was a big success here when it came out, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, it won the Palme d'Or in 1969 at Cannes. That's not something to scoff at. It was, I think it was voted like 12th best film and greatest British film of the 20th century by the BFI. So...
yeah, you know what? As I said, I think
we're wrong here. That's what this is.
Clearly, but it might mean obviously it means more to them than it would us, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not to mention 50 years later.
Yeah, there's a cultural part of this.
Yeah. So.
And the BFI voted in 99. So.
Oh well, they did not see Shaun of the Dead.
And in 2017, it was actually ranked as the 9th best British film.
Wow, it moved up
by Time Out magazine, which polled actors, directors, writers, producers, and critics. So
so there you go.
We are wrong.
Yeah, don't listen to me. Go watch this movie. Clearly, the British people know what they're doing when they're not beating young children and sticking their heads in toilets.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe, we don't have the cultural angle here.
Yeah. We don't have the cultural acumen to understand the true nuances going on here. But you know what? In an overall story, just another movie that we watch, and we do watch a lot of them. This is not very good. I think it was probably revolutionary and felt more revolutionary in 1969.
But ultimately, I mean, this movie really lives and dies by its ending.
It really did.
That was the hill it wanted to die on, is what it feels like.
And it murdered all of its characters to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. Including a close-up shot of the headmaster being blown away.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't, you know what? Don't watch the movie. It's fine. It's fine. You'll be okay. You've
heard of Columbine, right? It's like that.
Yeah. Yes. If you want to see what makes a monster, I guess, then movie is for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. I would, if you're really hot to trot, it's on Criterion, but I know that there are going to be better movies this month because the rest of the movies, you've already seen them. So
yes.
Yeah. I'm not too concerned, but yeah, every now and then we watch a movie that just,
it's not like it was bad.
It wasn't much of anything.
Film. Yeah, there's nothing there. You can spend 2 hours with Malcolm McDowell and enjoy yourself and still be impressed by him.
What's worse than being bad? Just being meh, very middle of the road. And that's what this movie is. Sorry. It's just meh. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's too bad Malcolm McDowell's performance doesn't suit the movie. Let's just put it that way. Movie doesn't deserve a Malcolm McDowell performance that good.
Yeah, and I doubt this movie would have been as lauded with a lesser guy in that role.
Right. Well, and also, we wouldn't, would Malcolm McDowell have been cast in Clockwork Orange without this movie? Who knows? But I'm glad he was, and I understand why.
So thank you, If.
Yeah, for that singular contribution to filmmaking. So let's take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Culture Cast of September.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Many of you will be experiencing certain feelings.
Impure thoughts, desires, fantasies.
No, Father.
What?
Never confuse love.
Your soft, perfumed, and powdered body, leaning against yours.
With the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins.
What do you think they're doing?
I don't even want to think about it.
Lust. Lust is the beast that spits you out. Your bones will burn, and your marrow will be reduced to imputrid black slime.
He's just projecting his doubts about his own sexuality.
They're somewhere on the road between heaven and hell, just looking for a place to park.
Brother, my screws are gone.
You, Mr. Rudy. Do not waste your time with her. She never made it with nobody, not even me, if you can believe that.
Mr. Caesar.
When one is in the presence of a superior being, well, one naturally feels inferior.
Mr. Dunn.
You ain't like those other jerks, are you?
I just got here. I just found out if you get the Pope to wave at you, that means you can have sex without sin.
Welcome to St. Basil's.
Heaven help us. If God had wanted them to be angels, he would have given them wings.
That's right. On the next Culture Cast, Father Malone's going to be joining me again, along with newcomer to the show, your co-host, host of Work and Raisin.
Oh, Mr. HP. Yes. Guess we're talking about Heaven Help Us.
We sure are.
Oh,
which doesn't involve a massacre at the end.
Of a sort.
Hopefully not the sort that we saw in this fucking movie.
No. There's nothing.
Boy.
Look, listen, if we're dealing with prep school movies, there's going to be a
murder.
No, not murder, but brutality.
That's fair. Oh, for sure.
Throughout. That's what the whole experience was. So you're going to have it in some way or another.
That's fair.
Heaven Help Us. Heaven Help Us is a very sweet movie and one of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, I cannot wait to talk about it then. So until then, Father Malone, where can people find you?
FatherMalone.com. That's where you can find Wolf and Raisin, the podcast I do with HP. You can also find Dark Destinations, which is my half-hour radio drama I write and produce. And you can also check out Midnight Viewing, which is the Night Gallery podcast I do with Chris and Mr. Mike White.
Yeah, and as for me, you can find me over at cstasher.com. That's my link tree. Go there, CSTACHIW.com. All the things that I work on, Chronicles from the Crypt, shows that are done, shows that are going, Powers, the podcast of Power, and other various 70s cop dramas and other random things that we choose to talk about. You can find all that over there. As for this show, culturecast.com, patreon.com/culturecast, all the places that you can go to donate financially if you want to, but just rate and review the show on iTunes. That's it. And keep listening. More than enough. More than enough. Father Malone, thank you for joining me as always.
My pleasure as always. Thanks for having me on and letting me clog the airwaves with things that I like. Or don't in some cases.
Yeah, boy, isn't that the truth? And we'll catch you on the next episode.